The Krillian war fleet hung in the void like a swarm of metallic locusts, their scanners sweeping the debris field where the human frigate Valiant had made its last stand. Commander Zexthor's mandibles clicked in satisfaction as he reviewed the battle logs on his tactical display. The humans fought well, his second officer noted, but their ship was no match for our superior firepower. Zexthor was about to agree when the communications array lit up with an intercepted transmission. The linguistics AI worked frantically to decode the strange human phonetics that had been broadcast just before the Valiant's destruction. Translation complete. Hold my beer. The Krillian commander stared at the words, his four eyes narrowing in confusion. The translation made no sense. Why would humans be concerned about beverage retention during combat? His tactical officer pulled up additional context from their xenolinguistics database, but the phrase remained maddeningly cryptic. Perhaps it is a prayer to their gods, suggested the communications officer. Zexthor dismissed the notion with a wave of his chitinous claw. Irrelevant. The humans are defeated. We proceed to... The proximity alarm shrieked. 18 hours earlier aboard the Valiant, Jasmine Torres had been running diagnostics on the engine core when Harry Chen burst into engineering, his face flushed with excitement. Jazz, you need to see this, Harry said, pulling up a holographic display. I've been analyzing the Krillian energy signatures from their last attack on the colony. Jasmine wiped the grease from her hands and studied the data streams flowing across the projection. As the ship's chief engineer, she had learned to trust Harry's instincts. The weapons specialist had an almost supernatural ability to spot patterns others missed. Their shields, Harry continued, his fingers dancing through the hologram. They're regenerative, but there's a frequency gap during the cycle. 0.03 seconds where they're vulnerable. 0.03 seconds. Jasmine raised an eyebrow. Harry, our targeting computers can't lock that fast. Nothing can. Harry's grin widened. Our targeting computers can't, but what if we don't use computers? Jasmine understood immediately. It was insane. It was impossible. It was exactly the kind of ridiculous human solution that might actually work. You want to fire manually, she said, during a high-speed combat maneuver, while being shot at by 50 enemy ships. Exactly. Captain Morrison will never approve it. That's why we're not going to ask her until after we prove it works. 6 hours later, the Krillian fleet had found them. The Valiant was outgunned, outmaneuvered, and completely surrounded. Captain Morrison's voice crackled over the shipwide comm. All hands, this is the captain. We're not making it out of this one. But we're going to make them remember us. In the weapons bay, Harry strapped himself into the manual firing seat, a relic from an earlier era of spaceflight that most modern ships had removed. Jasmine had spent the last 4 hours rewiring the entire weapons grid to respond to Harry's manual controls, bypassing every safety protocol in the book. This is certifiably insane, Jasmine muttered, making final adjustments to the targeting array. That's what makes it human, Harry replied, flexing his fingers over the controls. The first Krillian salvo struck their shields and the Valiant shuddered. Harry waited, his eyes locked on the sensor feed, watching the enemy shield frequencies with an intensity that bordered on meditation. Jasmine had never seen him so focused. Jas, Harry said quietly, if this works, I'm going to need more power to the forward cannons. All of it, everything we've got. Harry, if I do that, we'll have nothing left for shields or engines. We'll be a sitting duck. Trust me. Jasmine looked at her friend, this brilliant, reckless, impossibly optimistic human, and made her decision. She opened a channel to the bridge. Captain, Harry's got a plan. It's going to sound crazy, but... Torres, Captain Morrison interrupted. At this point, crazy is all we've got left. What do you need? I need you to transmit something for me, Jasmine said. On all frequencies. I need you to say, hold my beer. There was a pause. Then incredibly, Captain Morrison laughed. I always wanted to say that in an actual battle. Consider it done, the transmission went out. The Krillians intercepted it, and Harry Chen, enhanced by nothing more than human reflexes, pattern recognition, and sheer audacity, began to fire. His first shot slipped through the shield gap of the Krillian flagship. The second took out their command carrier. The third, fourth, and fifth strikes carved through the enemy formation with surgical precision that defied probability. Jasmine diverted every ounce of power to the weapons array, watching in awe as Harry's impossible accuracy turned the tide of battle. The Valiant's shields failed. Their engines sputtered. But Harry kept firing, his movements a blur of trained muscle memory and instinct. The Krillians, confronted with an opponent who fought with illogical precision and refused to die according to their calculations, did something they had never done before. They retreated. Commander Zexthor's fleet limped away from the battlefield, their sensors still trying to comprehend what had occurred. The human ship had been destroyed. Yes, but not before taking 19 Krillian vessels. With it in a display of marksmanship that their computers flagged as statistically impossible. The commander reviewed the intercepted transmission one final time. Hold my beer. Now too late, he understood. It wasn't a prayer or a plea. It was a warning. A declaration that humans were about to attempt something so audacious, so unreasonable, that they needed to set aside even the smallest distraction. The Krillian High Command would need to recalculate everything they knew about human warfare. Because the humans didn't just fight with logic and superior technology. They fought with something far more dangerous, the absolute conviction that impossible was just another word for challenge accepted. In the escape pod that had ejected from the Valiant 30, seconds before its destruction, Jasmine and Harry floated in the darkness, watching their ship's final explosion through the viewport. Did we just win by losing? Harry asked. Jasmine smiled. We won by being human. Now let's get rescued before we freeze to death. Hold my beer, Harry muttered. You don't have a beer. That's never stopped us before. End.